الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي أعلى وقهر وأعز واقتدر لا مهيد عنها ولا مفر ذو العرش المجيد والبشر الشديد الملك ملكه والخلق خلقه والأمر أمره يحكم ما يشاء ويفعل ما يريد أحمده سبحانه وأشكره وأتوب إليه وأستغفره وأسأله من فضله المزيد أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وهو على كل شيء شهيد وأشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Brothers, again, I apologize for the late start. I got stuck in traffic, so not really a good excuse, but really it should be tried to be punctual, but forgive me please. The topic I want to talk about is there's an ayah in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He addresses us as believers in Surah Al-Imran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold fast, hold firm to the rope of Allah, وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And do not be divided. Do not have separation, divisions. This ayah is addressing us as believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing us because the preceding ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Then وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing us as believers because Allah says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, O you who believe. Now, it is very important for us, my dear brothers, that we understand what this concept of this idea of brotherhood means. Firstly and formally, and perhaps as a very important point, the application of brotherhood, its manifestation, really when it takes place, it has meaning and substance when it's needed, not necessarily when it's not needed. Now, what I mean by that is, like the hadith of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that patience is at the stroke of calamity. That when there is a calamity that hits us, that is when the patience is required. I'll give you an example, yeah? Well, some of us say fathers here. If your son passes away in difficult and awkward circumstances, at that moment in time, you will be in rage, difficulty and hardship. The women, they may rip their clothes and hit themselves and cry and so on and so forth. And you know, in our culture, they go mad. This is not a monopoly that we have only in Pakistan. You know, that only Pakistani women or Bangladeshi women, they go mad. We don't have a monopoly on this bad culture. This bad culture exists, I'm sure, in Somalia and in other countries as well, in the Muslim world. So, but at that moment in time is where the patience is needed. Because afterwards, everybody's going to be patient. That mother who is crying and going mad, at that moment, in a year's time, she's going to stop crying. And she's going to say, okay, subhanallah, whatever happened, happened. Patience is not needed then. Because everybody's going to be patient then. Even the kuffar will be patient then. It's needed at that moment. So that's why at the stroke of calamity, when the calamity hits you, is when the patience is required. Now, brotherhood, from my experience, is no different. Sometimes when you go through a difficulty and hardship, and you need the brothers or those that are close to you, you need them at that moment to be brothers for you. Not later on. Maybe you're going through a trial, a difficulty in a trial, and there's maybe many co-defendants. At that moment, you need all of your co-defendants, all of those that are standing with you on your left and your right, to stand with you together as one entity. And we're not going to split. We're not going to be divided. We're not going to disagree with each other. At that moment, we need it. We need to be firm in front of the jury, in front of the prosecution, and the police and the judge, so on and so forth. At that time. Afterwards, I don't need it. Maybe you'll get found guilty and you'll find yourselves in the cells, banged up. And the brother says, I'm sorry, brother, man, I shouldn't have blamed you for that. It's too late. You're both in prison now. I don't need you to say sorry to me now. I needed you then to say sorry to me. I don't need it now. I need to move houses. And I said, brother, can you please help me? You know, I need money and I need a van. And you have money and you have a van. But you've got your own things to do. which can be postponed. Your things can be postponed. But if you don't do that, that brother and his wife and his kids are going to face so much difficulty and hardship. Whereas you helping them, you will assist 6 or 7 people, and only you as one will suffer. One person will suffer. Whereas if you don't help them, you one person will benefit and 6 and 7 will suffer. Then later you say, brother, tomorrow, okay, I'm free. Okay, you want me to help you move now? I'm free. Okay, I've already moved. Somebody else come and helped me. I don't need you now. I don't need your brotherhood now. I needed it yesterday. Do you understand? So brotherhood is perhaps no different. It's required at the stroke of hardship or the stroke of need. That's when it's required. Not any other time. Remember that, please. Because many people think, and I've been with people for years with them, perhaps in da'wah, or living with them, struggling with them, perhaps doing business with them. But when it comes to the hardship and the difficulty, at that moment I need them to be brothers. You can't. You know, not everybody passes that test. So you've got to remember that brotherhood is important. But the real strength of that, you will manifest it, how strongly you have conviction in it. And you believe in it when the other person needs it. And you may suffer because of that. But that's what brotherhood is about. And that's what Islam is about. Islam is about trying to alleviate other people's difficulty and hardship and suffering. Even if in the process you may have to go through a little bit of hardship yourself. A little bit of struggle yourself. It doesn't mean that in the process you kill yourself for somebody else. No, it just means you may have to suffer a little bit in order for somebody else to benefit even more. And for that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you in the akhirah. And in the dunya as well, surely. That is the mercy of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's bounty should not be restricted to just the akhirah. It's in the dunya as well. And furthermore, you will also have satisfaction, sukoon, tama'nina in your heart as well. Because that's what Islam is about. When you do something good for others and you manifest that brotherhood, not only does it build a strong community as a whole, builds an individual good relationship between the two people, but furthermore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also benefit you in the dunya as well. And as an individual, you will also feel better as well. Your heart and your soul has sukoon and tranquility as well. Because that's what, these good deeds that you do, some of them are nourishment for your soul. You may not gain any tangible benefit for it. You may not necessarily gain tangible benefit. I need nourishment to quench my thirst, I will have water. But your soul also requires certain things as well. Your soul also requires certain things. And this thing, is this concept of brotherhood and giving and sadaqah and charity, and that's part of it, will also is like a nourishment for your own soul itself. And it will give that sukoon and tranquility. Especially when you're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So brotherhood is very, very, and I will perhaps give some examples if we have time about how the Ashab of Rasulullah manifest that. At the time of its need, not later on. Very, very important. Please try to understand that. And when you all go through your own difficulties and your own tests, when you need your own brother to be with you, you will then appreciate and realize what brotherhood really means. It's not just go to the talk together, bruv. Let's go to Fajr together. Let's go to Isha together. It's not even we go to the mountains together. It's not even we play football together. It's not we study together. It's not we work together. It's none of that. And you could be doing that for years and years and years. But the true brotherhood will only be, you will only understand that and will only be manifested at the time of hardship. When the other brother may face a difficulty, he may face a hardship, he may face a test to help you and support you, but he will still do that. He will still do that for you. And she as a sister will still do that for her brother or for her sister, because they know the reward for them is in the akhirah. That yes, I will be a bridge for you if you need to cross from A to B. No problem. You may mark my back. You may scar my back, but I will still be that bridge for you to get to A to B. That is what is important. And it's not always, you don't always get chances and opportunities. Remember that. There are certain principles in Islam which we must believe. You will not always get chances to practice them. It's not always the case. And whenever that chance, opportunity comes to you, take it. It's a bit like sadaqah sometimes. You know, sometimes you're waiting. You go out your way perhaps to try to find someone to give sadaqah to. You may not always get a chance to give sadaqah. So when the chance comes to you and somebody's asked you, then give. That chance may not always come. And brotherhood is like that as well. that when that chance has come, that now somebody needs you, don't delay it, because you don't always get the chance to manifest that thing. And at that moment, when you do manifest that properly as a Muslim brother should, then at least at the end of that you can say, inshallah, I passed this test. Allah sent me this opportunity. Allah sent me this test, and perhaps I passed it. Because you don't always get that real test in relation to brotherhood. So the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Quran and Sunnah. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ, hold fast to the rope of Allah. This is the Quran and the Sunnah. Now, there were examples in the time of the Ashab Rasulullah where they used to fight each other, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he came to unite the different tribes and the different peoples together. And they used to fight over trivial, stupid things, I'll give you an example. There were two tribes called Aus and Khazraj. They used to fight for decades. And I don't mean just have a punch-up, in the boxing ring. I mean proper fight. Tribes fighting each other, killing each other, shedding blood. And I don't mean for a year or 2 years. I don't mean one fight, two fights. No, I mean for years, 40-odd years. There's one example where they both had livestock. Perhaps, I think it was a horse or a camel. And, they went astray. I think they mated with each other, the two. And both tribes got upset. Why did this happen? Why did that happen? Ours is better than yours. Yours is better than ours. And so on and so forth. Ours is more noble. And ours has got more better blood than yours. And they had a fight. They had a fight that's carried on for 40 years. Over 2 animals. Fighting over 2 animals, and they shed blood and killed each other, over this. And some of you are laughing and nodding your head thinking, how silly is that, For 40 years you're fighting over a couple of dogs perhaps, over a couple of sheep, a couple of chickens, and they got upset. Just leave them. For 40 years you're killing each other for it. You think it's so trivial. But today that exists today. Today there exists the same idea of fighting over nonsense things, nonsense ideas, stupid concepts. Is it not the case that people will fight because these are my ends? Yeah? What is my ends? These are my ends. This. You, brother, that's your end. Yeah? So you stay there. Don't come from my end or I'm going to fight you. No, I'm going to fight you. I'm going to kill you as well. Because you've just come to my end. And they say, what is my end? Here. This part of the table is my end. That's your end. Don't even move from there, brother. You're going to get it. You understand? I've got my posse here and you're going to have it, man. Yeah, that's what it's like. That is what and you're laughing now, but that's what happens, brother. Just the other day I was talking to some non-Muslim guy, but I was in the car showroom owned by a Muslim brother. There's a guy standing there and he's talking about, he wanted to fight this big, massive, 6-foot guy. And say, hey, come to my ends. Someone to fight him. And the guy said to me, no, these are my ends. I said, what is up with you? I said, these are everyone's ends, man. What are you on? Everybody lives here. And what is your end? You've got a street of, 50 houses and you live on one of them. Number 26. And what about the rest of them? It's all their ends as well. And those guys opposite is their ends as well. And you can see how trivial and stupid this idea is. But it exists not only on a smaller scale, but on a local scale, on a domestic scale, on a national scale, on an international level as well. When you've got two teams, that's why a lot of the scholars, they say, these sports that exist, the Olympics and so on and so forth, is not allowed because it does nothing except breed nationalism and tribalism between the different nations. And on an international level, that will carry on breeding and they will fight each other. And that is what is happening around the world today. The separation of Sudan is exactly about that. My ends. South Sudan is my ends. North Sudan is your ends. And we will fight and kill each other over it. And those international countries, those, supposed to be peace brokers, they are the ones who actually instigating the trouble, causing the trouble around the world. So they will go to one and they will ensure that there is separation and division. And they will finance any uprising that is taking place. And then they will not only finance it, they will give weapons to any uprising that is taking place. They will fund militias that are there in order to ensure that this separation and division does take place. It is in their interest. And that's what happened in the past. That's how the Islamic State, the Khilafah, was destroyed. When the British were there, they were pitching one against the other. So they were going to the Turks and saying to the Turks that you people are Turks and you're the guys in charge. You're the guys that are shedding blood while the Arabs are doing absolutely nothing. You are the ones on the front line. They used to go to the Arabs and say, the Prophet came to you, you are Arabs. How is it the Turks are ruling you? And they used to let them fight each other. One was supplying weapons to the other. Up until 1994-95, after the first Gulf War, it was well established that even the British were still funding arms and giving arms to the Iraqis then. So they were fighting each other. Now Iraq is divided into three. And it will continue to be divided. Sudan is divided. Somalia is going to be divided. All these countries, one after the other. And that is what the idea is. They believe in this concept of divide and rule. Because when you're together united, it's impossible for them to fight you. Because if they touch you, then you will all stand up. But they'll not touch you because these are your ends, not over something trivial and superficial. We are human beings, social human beings, and we're allowed to gather together for different things, for different reasons. So if there's entertainment there, we will all sit together. We all like to watch sport, so we will all sit together. It's a social gathering, so we'll bond for an hour or two. And later on, we'll have a game ourselves and we'll fight each other perhaps. So this bond is a very superficial, trivial bond. It exists, this unity between us. But وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. We hold fast to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This bond is far superior than any other bond. And it will exist, inshallah, if you have the right understanding until the day of judgment. So it doesn't matter what this person is or what he does. But he believes in the same Quran as me, follows the same Sunnah as me, prays in the same direction as me. And he's my brother. Perhaps more dearer to me than my own blood brother, who may not pray or fast or worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all. But that's what brotherhood means. So this idea used to exist in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where they used to have this social bonds, but based on superficial things, things that were simple, things that had no meaning. But we, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, came to remove all of that and said, yes, we are social human beings that need to gather together. And this social bond must be based upon Quran and Sunnah, must be based upon Iman. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Not, oh you Pakistani, Ya ayyuhal Pakistani, Ya ayyuhal Bengali, Ya ayyuhal Somali, Ya ayyuhal Arab. No. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Oh you who believe. Always the address is to the believers. So we have been distinguished as believers, not according to our race, not according to the color of our skin, not according to our gender, not according to the place where we are born, but according to our belief and our creed. And that is far superior than anything else. Nothing can supersede that. And everything else is shallow. It will exist, no doubt, but only temporarily. Only for a moment. Only for a moment in time. That we gather together to listen to music because we enjoy the same music. Fashion changes, I'll change, mean you will fight. I don't want to go to that concert, I'll go to this concert. Even though they're haram, and music is haram. I don't like this sport, I like that sport. I like this player, I don't like that player. But he keeps chopping and changing. Why? He's in a freelance. He keeps changing, you know. One team's borrowing, then the other team borrows him. Then he gets a good deal. £20 million deal, he goes to this company. He goes to this football. So now I've got to support them. And then I'm going to have a fight with you. Because we're going to both watch each other and say, oh, no, he didn't foul him, Let's have a punch-up over a game of football, over a piece of leather. So these bonds do exist. But at the end of the day, they are very, very superficial. Our bond should be based only upon the Quran and only upon the Sunnah. And now when we find that there is a dispute, an argument between us believers, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in the Quran? وَإِن طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَتَلُوا فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if now we quarrel, if there is a fighting between us takes place, then فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا. Then bring salah, between us. Bring reconciliation between us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to say, in another ayah, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةً فَأَصْلِهُ بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the believers are brothers. So make settlement between them. And this is important. Whenever we find that there is a dispute between Muslim groups or individuals or factions, our responsibility is not to put fire on the fuel. Our responsibility is to try to bring the two people together. So Ahmad is fighting with Luqman. And I go to Luqman, and Ahmad is cussing Luqman, left, right, and he's this and he's that. He's just jahil, not even practicing, he's just smoking, he's this and that. Everything he's saying about him. And I go to Luqman and say, Akhi Luqman, Ahmad loves you for the sake of Allah. He loves you really. He was just upset that day. He loves you. I buy him a little gift. Look, I know you like cherry coke. There's a kind of cherry coke for you. He bought that for you, but he hasn't got much money, but he bought something for you. He bought maybe dates for you. He bought a jubbah for you, He gave you a Quran, and you buy it yourself. Why? To reconcile between them. And you are blatantly lying. But in that situation, it's allowed to lie. Muhammad didn't allow lying. It's one of those things he didn't allow in any circumstance, except we know three. One of them is to bring salah between the brothers, the brotherhood. Husband can lie to his wife and vice versa. They know this will cause fitna between them. And I can lie maybe as a judge between two, husband and wife, and between two brothers. I try to bring two people together. In that situation, yes, don't necessarily tell the person the truth. He said that about your mum, and about your kids, and about your wife, and about everything. You go and fight him. Then you don't do that. You bring fire, you try to bring the people together, because that is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now let me try to give you a couple of examples of in the time of the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, of how this brotherhood really did manifest. You know, there were two types of people in the time of Rasulullah that assisted the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. There were the Muhajirin and the Ansar. The Muhajirin were the ones that helped Rasulullah in Makkah. The Ansar were the ones who gave him the military support and were ready to fight for him in Medina. So then they had to make hijrah from Makkah to Medina. When they went, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam made brotherhood between them. As an example of this, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam made brotherhood between Abdur Rahman ibn Auf and Sa'd ibn Rabi'ah. He said to one of them that he is now your brother, because they left everything behind. Imagine you got your businesses, you got your houses, you got your cars, and so on and so forth. You lived all your life there. You know, there used to be tribes. So if a tribe the whole tribe used to go together, and they used to do everything together. You know, because they have this tribal culture. That's the way that they were. So they all used to stick together. Even if somebody went to Sham to do business, they used to come back because that was their homeland. It's not like today, a very individualistic mentality. If I'm not happy with my family, you know, to them, I'm going to go to Spain and go and live there. They can all go to hell. I just go and live there by myself to enjoy myself. Just me, myself and I. This individualistic mentality. In Islam, we don't have this individualistic mentality. We have a collective community mentality. That's why we have a family community, a family bond. So even when you get married, even the marriage is almost between two families. You're bringing two families together. Not just two individuals. Yeah, maybe they get married and they have a relationship and they have children. But really and truly, you're bringing two families together, two communities together. This is the mentality that we should have and always have. That we are trying to assist and help each other as a community. We are not individuals. We are communities. It's a capitalist mentality, an individualistic mentality. This idea of individualism is nothing but a capitalist mentality. That you benefit only yourself. And if you are happy and if you are content, it doesn't matter if the next door neighbor dies. And this you can see how it works globally as well. So they couldn't give two hoots if Libya burns. They couldn't give a damn if Egypt burns. They couldn't give two hoots if Syria burns. As long as they're fine. As long as they're fine. They don't care about Somalia as long as they're fine. They don't care if they instigate a war in Iraq, Afghanistan and leave it in civil war for 50, 60 years. As long as they are fine. That's the way that it has been, it will always be. That's the way of the kuffar. Particularly, they've learned lessons from the strength of the brotherhood with the Muslims. When there was an Islamic state, and they used to reach up to the gates of Vienna, from as far east as you can think of. It was from there up to the gates of Vienna. So strong, they were unable to defeat them, except when they started to divide them one after the other. And each governor then started to claim independence. And then all that happened was they started to become separate. And they just started to rule over them one after the other. Pitching one against the other. They were divided. But when they were together, they were unable to do that. So these were examples that Muhammad ﷺ brought the brotherhood together. So those that were the Ansar were the ones who were the residents, of course. So they were more richer. They were well established there. That was their community. Somebody else from outside was come to their community. So Muhammad ﷺ said to the Ansar, and what they did was they gave up their livelihood for them. They gave up their rizq for them, their money for them. Furthermore, those that had more than one wives, they said, brother, I've got 3 or 4 wives. You can pick number 1, 2, 3 or 4. Whichever one you want, I'll divorce her for you. Who would even think about doing that today? It's hard. It's not allowed now. It's been abrogated, yeah? But this idea, yeah, just to let you know, it's been abrogated. Just in case you get into a fight, say, bro, you've got 2 wives, man. Just allow one, innit? Come on, man. Don't be like that, bro. You know, I'm desperate to get married, man. You know what I mean? Come on, I like that one, man. What? You think that? It's so odd, you know? But who would even think about that today? You wouldn't even think about it. But just remember, think about for a moment, 1400 years ago, that they were able to do that. Is that not brotherhood? Do you understand the point of brotherhood at the time of need? That now I've just left my home, my land, my house, my money, my livestock, my business, and perhaps those families where the other members didn't become Muslims. So my parents perhaps, husbands left their wives, wives left their husbands, and now I've just come to this fresh new town. I don't know where to go. I don't know whether I should turn left or right. I just don't know anyone or anything at all. Now when I need brotherhood, do you understand where it's needed? In a year's time, I'm established, man. I'm established. I've got 2 shops. I've got enough livestock. I've got 2 wives already. I don't need your wife anymore. I don't need your money anymore. I've been established now. But now when I need it, that's my point about brotherhood. At the time of need, they needed it as soon as they came. They needed money then. I need it now to move forward. For those who have got wives and children and parents, I need to support them. So I need your money now, brother, from the Ansar. And they gave it to them then. I've been married for a long time. I need your wife now for me to start a community. Now is when I need her. Not when I get married in a year's time. It's required now. So these needs of brotherhood, whatever they may be, they need to manifest at the time of need. Later on, they're not needed. You may get reward for it later, Allahu Alam. But the hadith says patience is at the stroke of calamity. Then is where it's required. Allah will perhaps test you then. You say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, when somebody perhaps passes away. Or at that moment you say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. No, oh no, why did this happen and this and that and so on and so forth, cursing everyone. And later on you remember, oh, okay, it happened from Allah. Allah forgive me. It's too late then. It's just too late. Like the brotherhood may be too late. So this is where it's required. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was one of the most noble companion after the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In one of the battles that took place, his son was not Muslim. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq's son was not Muslim. And they fought in a battle together. Of course, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq on the side of the believers and his son on the other side. When his son became Muslim later on, he said to his father, Abu Bakr, he said that, in this battle that we fought, I saw you. He said, I saw you in this battle. But I looked the other way. I tried to avoid you because I didn't want to fight you. Didn't want to kill you. And how did Abu Bakr as-Siddiq reply and respond? He said, Jazakallah khair, I'm so glad you're younger than me, you're stronger than me, you could have killed me. He didn't say that, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. He said, he didn't even say I did the same. He said, by Allah, if I saw you, I would have killed you. He said, if I had seen you, then I would have killed you. He told about his own son. The reason why is because he understood that brotherhood was based upon deen, not based upon blood. On the day of judgment, the only thing that is going to matter to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is deen, worshipping Allah. وَاعْتَسِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold fast to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, O you who believe. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةً. The believers are brotherhood. So Abu Bakr as-Siddiq understood that the brothers are not, the relatives of the brothers, those that are close to you, are not necessarily those who are linked to you by blood or by family ties, but those who are believers, linked to you by aqeedah, linked to you by belief, linked to you by iman, linked to you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, something more noble. So my link to you is not just the blood that we have that can dry up when we are dead, but my link to you is Allah. You understand? My link to you is not the color of our skin. My link to you is not my mother who's going to die. My link to you is not my father who's going to die. My link to you is not my job who's got that which is going to finish. My link to you is not that you're my wife or my husband. No, my link to you is something more noble and more greater than that. My link to you, how I'm linked to you is Allah. That's our link. That's what brings us together. Nothing else, nothing more. So that he understood was more noble and more greater than blood. Furthermore, Musab ibn Umair. Musab ibn Umair was one of the companions who single-handedly changed Medina. Yathrib. Single-handedly changed this whole community. Yathrib was a place that was, stricken with strife and calamity and fighting and so on and so forth. But he single-handedly changed it. And then Muhammad ﷺ came and he established the Khilafah, the Islamic State in Medina. So he's a good example for those that want to study about da'wah, and he was a very good da'i, Mus'ab ibn Umair. But his brother was not Muslim. So after one of the battles, they were being captured. The prisoners of war were captured and they were tied up one after the other. As Mus'ab ibn Umair was looking at the prisoners, he walked past his brother. As he walked past his brother, he said to this person, and if I can remember correctly, he was a black slave who previously used to be a slave, and he was tying up these prisoners. As he was tying up these prisoners, Mus'ab ibn Umair's mother was very rich, from a rich family. So he said to this man, this black slave, or this man who was tying up the prisoners, he said, make sure you tie this person up tight. So he didn't say about his own brother, look, take it easy with him, bro. Relax, man, he's my brother. Come on, he's my bro, you know. He's my brother and that, you know. Come on, take it easy, just allow him, let him go. You know, he didn't say that, Mus'ab ibn Umair. He said, you know, he said, this person, yeah, he's my brother. He said, tie him up. Make sure you tie him up properly. Because his mother is rich. He's talking about his own mum. He's talking about his own mum. He said, because his mum's rich. And she's going to pay enough ransom to free him. And his brother is saying, what? What are you on? He said, I'm your brother. He said, no. He said, this person who's tying you up is my brother. You are not my brother. He understood brotherhood. That's what it meant at that moment when it was the test. Oh no. He's my brother in front of me, but he's not Muslim. Doesn't worship Allah. He's mushrik. And you've got this who's guy, I don't even know this man. He maybe from a slave, you know, from previous times. So I mean, he's even men in their class, in their understanding, he's from a lower class. But he said, at that moment is where the brotherhood is required, isn't it? What do I do now? What do I say now? Do I tell this slave, take it easy with him and release him? He did the most noble thing. He said, make sure you tie him up properly. Because he's my brother. The point to illustrate was the brotherhood. That's what was to illustrate. And plus, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his final khutbah, khutbatul wada, he said that لا فرق بين عربيين وعجميين إلا بالتقوى. There's no difference between Arabs and non-Arabs except taqwa. No difference between black and white except taqwa. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. The only thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at is your taqwa, your piety. How close you are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing more and nothing less. So this idea, my dear brothers, this idea that I said to you that used to exist in the time of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where they used to fight over silly nonsense things, you know, things that were cheap. You know, again, just to reiterate and remind you, perhaps some of the latecomers, these ideas exist today. I know myself, you know, from my own community. Somebody who's maybe from this part of Pakistan will fight somebody from that part of Pakistan. I've met communities from different areas. Somali community, somebody who is in South London. And they're fighting a gang who's from West London, but they're both from Somalia. I met some other brothers, you know, who were in difficult times themselves, and they were scared. They were with us, with some of the brothers, and you know, said, "But I can't go there, you know, because these guys, they're from a different brotherhood or from different gang." And I said, "But he's Somalian, you know." He said, "No, but I can't go there because it's from a different area." Again, this whole thing's about ends. Because from a different area, people will gather together. And you know, these commercial companies, they try to promote this as well. You know, you can go to some areas where you can go to the JD Sports, for example, a company, a sports company, and you can buy trainers. And the trainers have got postcodes on them. It's a postcode war out there, isn't it? It's a postcode. I'm from N1. Eh? I don't know if people from here are from N1. But I'm from N1. And you're from N2. Yeah, I'm just one more than you, bro. That's it. Come on. Why are you going to kill me for that? It wasn't my choice that I was born here. I mean, I didn't say to my parents, make sure you're from N1, because I'm going to get hammered when I grow older. You don't get that choice, do you? You're just born, you know? It's that somebody saying, bro, man, I've got blue eyes, and I'm going to kill you because you've got green eyes. You know? I've got black eyes, I'm going to kill you because you've got brown eyes. So what? Yeah, but Allah gave me this, man. What are you going to fight me for that for? It's different if I take something from you. So this culture where people will fight over something silly and trivial exists. We need to get above that. You know, we Muslims can police our community ourselves. We don't need perhaps the police and the rules and the laws of the government, because we enjoin good and forbid evil. So we police our own community. So if there are fights taking place, we will stop the fights. If there are gangs fighting each other, we will stop the gangs. If they're killing each other, we will stop them from doing that. Not just for a moment, but for a lifetime. To change the ideas that they carry, change the thinking that they have, change the mentality that they've been taught. You know, change that completely. That's our responsibility. To go out and enjoin that which is good and forbid that which is evil. So when you find that there is this idea of perhaps a unity based upon something that's trivial and superficial, you need to get over that. Immediately. Don't ever ask the people where you're from. The only question you need to ask is, are you Muslim? That's it. Because Allah, He makes that distinction. That's the only reason. No, you don't have a right to make that distinction. You can't claim moral superiority above anyone else or any other religion because you yourself want to do that. Allah gave you that right, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because you're a Muslim. So you must behave like a Muslim to have that privilege. Behave like a Muslim to be eligible for Jannah. Behave like a Muslim to be called a believer. That's because Allah, He gave you that. You didn't give it to yourself. I'm better than you because I'm a Muslim and you're a disbeliever. No, Allah gave you that honor. It's because Allah SWT gave you that honor, with that comes a whole heap of responsibility as well. That you behave like a Muslim. So don't behave like a gangster. Don't behave like a fool. That I'm going to fight somebody because he's from different ends, or because he wears different kind of trainers. And that happens. Like I said, these companies, they promote that. I had to buy a bag for my son, again from JD Sports, he wanted a particular duffel bag. And on there it's got East London. I think it's Nike or Adidas, but it's got East London written on it. I'm from East London. Stop fighting me, brother. Yeah? I'll fight you all. Yeah, so I'm from East London. Yeah? But then I know in West London, I saw somebody else when I was actually in East London have the same bag. And I looked at it. It's got West London on it. Exactly the same bag. But it's got West London written on it. See, I bought it from JD Sports. So these companies, they promote this division. So a group of people, perhaps from N1, will all go to JD Sports and buy the same trainers with that postcode. Or a group of people will all buy the same bag and it's written East London. So I'm the East London posse perhaps. So this idea that exists, my dear brothers, is wrong. It's silly, it's childish, it's immature, it's trivial and superficial. As you grow older, you'll realize that you've done tremendous amount of damage to yourself, your family, your community, your children. And in the akhirah, you will have to answer to that. You know, sometimes when you tell brothers, don't do that. Brothers, don't do that. It's haram, it's haram, it's haram. Remember one thing. You know, if it's not enough for you to know that something is haram because Allah said it's haram, know that you must pay the consequences of your actions. One day. One day. Whatever happens, whatever you do, you must pay the consequences of your actions, whether they're good or bad. Always remember that. Okay? It may be that you fought a brother, a Muslim, perhaps 5 years ago. But one day, that will catch up with you. It's never going to go away. It will catch up with you. As an example, smoking. People smoke. It's haram to smoke. And you're not listening because you don't understand the concept of haram. But one day it will catch up with you in a different way. How? Your liver's gone. Why? Because for the last 10 years you smoked. So as an example of that, things will always catch up with you. Always. You commit zina. You commit something haram. And the consequence of that, you've got to now be the responsible person for a child. For the rest of your life. For 15 years until this person becomes mature. You don't understand it was haram. But you got a child now you've got to deal with because you committed zina. So the consequence of that you've got to deal with. Child becomes a bad child. He was a child from zina. Its consequences, you must deal with those. They will always catch up with you. So brotherhood, my dear brothers, is a very, very important idea. But you must understand it must be based upon Quran and Sunnah. Not based upon the color of your skin. Not based upon the fact that you're from Pakistan, or you're from Bangladesh, or you're from India, or you're from Somalia, or you're from Eritrea, or you're Saudi, or you're Arab, or you're white, or you're black. That means nothing. The only thing that matters is you're a Muslim. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. That's the only concern. As long as you're a Muslim, you are in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala superior above anybody else, and every other Muslim around the world is your brother. Doesn't matter what color, race, creed they're from. Doesn't matter what passport that they hold. وآخر دعوانا والحمد لله رب العالمين. There's about 5-10 minutes I think left for question and answer.
Yeah, so inshallah we open the floor for questions.
If anybody wants to ask any questions, and Bismillah.
What's the best way to strengthen the brotherhood in the community?
The best way is to do things which, as Muslims, not only the other brothers used to do, the Sahaba they used to do, but to refer back to the Quran and Sunnah. So one of the ways is to perhaps buy each other gifts. Yeah? One of the ways is perhaps to buy each other gifts. Another way is sacrifice something for yourself for your Muslim brother. Another way is to make dua for your Muslim brother. One of the things that we don't tend to do is make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's always selfish for me, myself and I. You know, give me this car, give me this job, let me pass my exam, but your brother as well. You know, if you make a dua for your Muslim brother, that same dua, good dua will come for you as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala find for brother, Abdur Rahman, the most beautiful looking wife in the world. Allah inshallah give you a beautiful looking wife as well. You know, may Allah pass my exam. You both got exams. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you pass your exams as well. So you pray for your Muslim brother, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you that dua as well, inshallah. So that's one of the ways. But if you do things in the community which as Muslims we should be doing anyway, that will inshallah automatically build the brotherhood. So for Salatul Fajr, go and knock for your Muslim brother. Say, come on, bro, let's go and pray Salatul Fajr. If your brother is in need, immediately go to his assistance and go to his help. Whatever this need may be, maybe he's having difficulty coming towards Islam. Maybe he can't get off the drugs perhaps, or the smoking, or the music. Don't just diss him left, right and center. Try to help him. Try to help him and don't help, as Muhammad said, don't help the shaitan against your Muslim brother. Maybe sometimes you do need to diss him. I'm not saying that you don't. Sometimes maybe you do need to. But maybe the alim or the scholar will do that in his own way. But if you do it, it might just cause a division. And you've got to have a good relationship to know how to do that, perhaps. But, try to bring him closer towards Islam. So there are various projects that you can do, Islamic projects. Anything that's linked to the Quran, linked to the Sunnah, will inshallah build the brotherhood between you. As long as you understand one thing, you remove everything else, any other form of ism, and you only leave Islam there. So you leave the fact that he's from a different part of Somalia. You leave the fact that he's a different type of Arab. You leave the fact that he's a different Asian. Leave that completely. You leave all of these issues. You leave that he's from a different group perhaps. You leave that he doesn't do Rafayadain in his salat. He's maybe Hanafi and I'm maybe Shafi. You leave all of that. You leave the fact that maybe he hasn't got a beard as big as yours. Leave all of that. The only thing that you should, because he's a brother and he prays like I pray. He's a Muslim. He reads the Quran like I do. So you have projects for each other like this. This should inshallah bring the brother. So when you come here, you ring your Muslim brother, say, Akhi, let's go to the talk. And you maybe come together. Then afterwards maybe you go and buy a meal for everybody. When you buy a meal for your Muslim brother, say, brother, why? Because you're a Muslim brother, Akhi. I love you for the sake of Allah. You've only got a tenner for the rest of the week. No problem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for me, inshallah. You do things because you buy each other gifts. And as Muhammad said, that will be love between you. It doesn't mean somebody else demands it. Akhi, you want to be my brother? Buy me that car, man. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. That will create hatred between you. But if he loves you for the sake of Allah, he will do something himself. Yeah, so they are different. As long as it's always linked to the Quran and Sunnah, not the superficial dunya matters, then inshallah that will bring the brotherhood between you.
Like in Pakistan, maybe that the caste system that applies in a social level as well.
Yeah.
Islamically, I assume it's un-Islamic.
Yes.
The solution.
I mean, anything that will create a division between the brothers that is not based upon taqwa, because that's the only distinction Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made. And in everything that distinction exists, yeah? So I'm a father and I've got a daughter who wants to get married and two people come to me from perhaps Somalia and they're both Muslims, okay? But one prays, one doesn't pray. I'll make that distinction. I say, you don't pray? Move, man. The one who prays, you could have my daughter. Do you understand? He can get married to my daughter. Why? Because I'm rich, inshallah. So they will both get married. I've got a whole queue of them. But one of them is good practice. So I will make a distinction based upon deen. He's a practicing brother, he's not practicing. We need to pray salat. One is hafiz of Quran, one isn't, so we choose the hafiz. Yeah, one is alim, one isn't, so we choose the alim. Allah says in the Quran, How can it be that those people have ilm, those that don't have ilm are the same? They're not the same. So this distinction Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes, but only this distinction. Anything else, whether it's a caste system, whether it's tribalism or partisanship, whether it's nationalism, whether it's whatever it may be, any other social division that exists, this in Islam is completely forbidden. And ultimately the only solution is that we have a state, because the state will remove the borders. The state will ensure that you can go all the way, from where? All the way from perhaps Malaysia and Indonesia, and touch all the way up to the Vienna, whatever part, however big the state is, without any visa. So I could go from Somalia to Eritrea without a visa. A lot of Somalis are now going to Yemen, but they have to try to kill themselves to get to Yemen. Kill themselves to get to Yemen, because they need a visa. Yemen's not going to allow them in. Yemen's poor country itself is having problems with Saudi Arabia. It's taken all of the wealth. Yeah? So now, if there was no borders, there wouldn't be a problem. People wouldn't be forced to go there, because there will also be an equilibrium in wealth as well. I mean, there will be a division of wealth where it's all equal. Yeah, where it's all equal. So not only one country has all of the wealth and the other country has nothing. So that country that has nothing they've been forced to either beg or forced to come to this country. Where there's a division of wealth, everybody will stay in their own country. Everybody will be happy where they are, in their own community. And there's nothing wrong with this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us, in different colors, so we are able to recognize each other. And I don't say this in a racist way, but when you look at Chinese, they all look the same. And they said that to me themselves. I was on a block of my flats, and I was with my kids once and trying to get in the lift, and a Chinese couple, young kid, he's giving it all the largent, and I couldn't do nothing because I had my kids with me, young kids. But I said, when I see you, I ain't never going to forget you. But I saw him later on. I'm not sure if it was him. But then I said to him, it was you. I said, it was you, wasn't it? He goes to me, no. And he himself said to me, was he Chinese? I said, yeah. He goes, well, you look the same. Yeah, they do. They all look the same. For us, sometimes it's difficult to distinguish, isn't it? Because you think, they all look the same. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us different so we can recognize each other. If we all look the same, it could be big problems. You can, just from one community, you can see how there's that problem will exist. I may have punched up a wrong Chinese. Allah going to ask me down the desk, get all the brothers on him in his house and everything, But it might be the wrong guy. But so I allowed him because, I said Allah would deal with him if it was, But he didn't do anything physical, but he just gave it the large. So Allah made us like this so we're able to recognize each other. So, but that doesn't mean that we fight each other or despise each other. Recognize, not despise, not hate each other. Do you understand? So it's very, very important.
Okay, inshallah, we'll end it there for brothers, because my group's entering about 5 minutes. Just a few announcements to make. The Saturday talks will continue from next week and during Ramadan as well. And Wednesday talks with Al Bushra 6:30 to 8:30 here. And also donations. This centre isn't free, brother, so if you can donate £1 at least for every brother, inshallah, we can continue these talks. And we'll be refreshing at the back, so end it there, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.